Probably asking how much it's 243 each.
No, less than that.
What the 730?
No, it's actually less.
It is my calculator.
Less. Because it's all capital. About 200 basically. So we let them buy. Huh?
How many on YouTube? How many have joined on YouTube? Very few. This is live. Jan live. Why they started recording? Okay, let us start now.
Isamya Akshara, Yastu Guru Shishya Niviti, Tatviya, Nasti Tat, Davya, Yadatva, Runanuri Bhaveta. This shloka proves significance of a teacher. Even in the oldest times, teacher always go above and beyond to ensure that the quality of education remains intact. With this zeal and enthusiasm, I, Deveshwari Naidu, from ACM India Council, welcome you all to the second day of the event, third conference on computational thinking in school. Before we start the program, there are a couple of announcements. All participants, please note this. You're using the same Zoom link throughout the 4 days of the conference, and kindly do not share this link with others. In case you drop off and are unable to join the conference on Zoom, please join us on CSpathshala YouTube link for joining it. And as this is an online event, certain norms come with the use of technology. So each session of the conference will begin promptly at the scheduled time. During the call, participants can submit their questions using the Q&A feature available in Zoom. The session chair will convey the audience questions to the speakers. The certificate for the participation will be sent after the conference. We are going to facilitate you the feedback link at the end of the conference, and those who will be submitting this feedback form will be getting the certificates. Today, we shall be witnessing welcome you to the third conference on computational thinking in school. We'll be shortly beginning with our program. Stay online with us.
Geeta, maybe we can stop the music for a second and check that screen. Hello.
Good afternoon. Vidya, would you like to share your screen and check it once?
Manohar is here as well.
Okay, Manohar, yeah.
Hi, actually, Raji, I think Vineet knows. Raji has to be given permission. She has to share this first
Okay,
screen.
give me a second. Yeah.
Raji and Devi require permission.
Raji and Devi, right?
Devi, yeah.
Yeah.
Join as panelist then, I think.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hi Manohar, is it some 5 a.m. or something for you? I mean,
Hello, hello.
Dr. Manohar, you're not able to hear us? I think he's not able to hear us.
Okay, good. I am not able to hear you, but I think let me just make sure I selected the right one. That's it. Oh. Hello, hello.
hello, can you hear us? No.
Yes. Okay, good.
Okay. Anyway, welcome.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Yeah, good afternoon, everyone. This is Meenakshi. Just checking in if you can hear me.
Yes, we
Yes.
can hear you.
Yes.
Yeah, great. Okay, thank you.
Supriya,
Yeah, Sunny.
so you can check the share screen and then start with the introduction.
Okay. Raji? Raji, there? Can you share your screen?
Yeah, I'm here, Supriya ma'am.
Okay.
I'll just share.
Can you?
Yes, I think it looks good.
Sonia, is that all right?
Yeah, it's good. Thanks.
So should we keep it at this or we'll bring back the sharing later?
Yeah, you can.
If it's easier this way, let's keep it at this.
Yeah, we can keep it actually. We just have a short welcome and then we can have to put an action.
Sure.
Yeah, one minute. Over to you, Devashri, for the day.
Ekamya aksharam yastu guru shishye nivedyate tatviyam nasti tad dravyam yaditva lunaruni bhavete. The shloka proves significance of a teacher. Even in the old age time, teacher always go above and beyond to ensure that the quality of education remains intact. With his zeal and enthusiasm, I, Deveshwari Naidu, on behalf of ACM India Council, welcomes you all to the second day of the event, a third conference on computational thinking in school. Today, we shall be witnessing a workshop on visual impairment project in the area city and inclusion. This will be conducted by two eminent speakers, Supriya De, co-founder, Vision Empowered Trust, also a research associate Digital Identities Project, IIIT, Bangalore. We also have with us Mr. Manohar Swaminathan, Principal Researcher, Microsoft Research India. The workshop will be conducted in two sessions, followed by Chai Pe Charcha. So, to begin with today's program, I now request our session chair, Professor Meenakshi D'Souza, IIIT Bangalore, to please welcome our speaker. Over to Meenakshi.
Yeah, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. It is indeed my pleasure to be a part of the Computational Thinking in Schools conference and also to introduce the two eminent speakers for today. Supriya, I've had the good fortune of knowing Supriya De for the past about 4 or 5 years when she quit her long career in IT industry to pursue a master's degree in IIIT Bangalore in IT and society. And post her master's by research, Supriya, along with another alumna from IIIT, co-founded an organization called Vision Empower, where they focus on developing technologies for the visually impaired. Supriya is also a founder of Wemby Technologies, co-founder of Wemby Technologies, which makes assistive technologies for students with visual impairment. Do check out their website. They have an exciting device and a lot of software-driven technology solutions. Supriya, before joining IIIT Bangalore and moving on to working with visual impairment, if I know it right, probably has a little close to 2 decades of experience in the corporate industry, long-term veteran at Wipro Technologies. And we're glad that she switched over her career path into doing something that was going to be very useful for all of us. Welcome, Supriya. Looking forward to your session. Manohar Swaminathan, I think I've had the privilege of knowing him as a young doctoral student when he was a professor at the Indian Institute of Science. And I think from being an academician to being a startup founder to bringing one of the earliest handheld devices to India, and then followed by another exciting startup, Strand Life Sciences, he's now moved on into working at Microsoft Research India, where his research focuses extensively on accessibility, specifically on accessibility as it is going to be used through a play kind of approach. And Manohar Swaminathan is also the founder and co-convener of the Center of Accessibility for Global South, which is hosted at IIIT Bangalore. And again, I've had the good privilege of sitting on those meetings when CAJS, as we call it, was literally in the womb and getting originated. And we look forward to a lot more exciting activities coming out of the Center for Accessibility in the Global South. So it's a real privilege to have Manohar Swaminathan here, an eminent researcher, talking about us on accessibility. Over to both of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Professor. Dr. Manohar, do you want to just welcome everybody? While I think Devi Datta Ghosh will require to be elevated. I told her to change her name to September 30th. Devi, I'm not sure if it's done.
But in the meanwhile, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to be a part of this fantastic conference and event. And thanks very much to the organizers for giving us this opportunity to share our work on computational thinking. This has been a work that's going on for about 3 years, trying to start early with computational thinking, like all of you are doing in mainstream schools. We are trying to take the CSpathshala curriculum and resources to children in schools for the blind. We have started in a small way in Bangalore, and then we are reasonably going forward. And this is the time then when JAM, as I call Professor Ramanujam, we interacted about the excellent work that is being done in CSpathshala. And we are excited to share our work, which we believe is useful across the board. And as we go forward in the workshop, you will get a sense of what we are doing. And the main point I want to make before I hand over to Shukriya and Tim is to invite all of you. This is a real workshop, not just a presentation, but this is also just a start of hopefully a long collaboration between all of you and what we are trying to do, and to take the play-filled approach to learning to children across the country. So over to you, Shukriya. And
Manohar,
yeah.
would you mind? I would like to add something
Please. No,
very
not at all.
important,
That'll be
which
welcome.
often gets missed. So if you don't mind my saying,
No, not at all. Please go ahead.
that when we in general think of any curriculum pedagogy for visually impaired or children with disabilities, very often the point gets missed that almost all these tools apply across the board for all children in all schools. And so, yesterday I remember some people were asking about today's workshop and are asking about, is it computational thinking for the visually impaired? Now, I think this is extremely important that I personally, have worked with children, in the visually impaired children in the context of math education, and I found that this was learning that was very important for math education per se. So I would say that all of us will learn in all contexts from workshops like this. So I want to add that word of welcome to you all for this and for taking up this wonderful workshop. Thanks very much. Sorry for butting in. If you don't
mind. No, please. That was really welcome. Thank you. Yeah, over to you.
So welcome one and all to this workshop on VICT, call it VICT, Computational Thinking for Students with Visual Impairment. So we'll begin today's session with an icebreaker. So we have with us two of our education coordinators, Devi and Raji. Would you take over Devi and Raji and engage with them?
Yes. Sure, Supriya ma'am. Before we start with the icebreaker, can we go for a small poll?
Yeah, please go.
Participants,
let us know.
Yeah, participants, this is a small poll which will be conducted in Mentimeter. You will be getting the link to join the poll in the chat box, requesting everyone to click the link and join the poll and give your valuable answers.
Have you posted?
Yeah, I think it's coming now.
Yeah.
Please click on the second link, menti.com. That's the.
The question is on the screen. Which state are you from? I'm sure everybody has joined the link.
Sorry to interrupt, just to help the organizers, you have to click on the link or you can visit menti.com and type the code. There's an 8-digit code. If the link doesn't work, you could try that.
Yes, Raji, you can read out the code as well.
Yeah, the code is 22668057.
I think, do you want to continue with the questions, Raji?
Yeah. Is it okay? I'll go on to the next question. because I didn't see any answers. Is anyone finding difficult?
Oh,
Yeah.
Everyone finding it
maybe
difficult for logging in?
Is also possible to go back to the first
only
question?
one question.
This
No,
is
no.
the first question, sir.
First question. Right? Yeah. Okay. Good.
So
So
you
let's.
can, people have answered. Are you sharing your Menti screen, Raji?
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually,
Okay.
we are not getting, at least I'm not getting this question. I'm getting
Yeah, I'm
what
getting the
favorite
childhood game.
game.
Correct.
Yeah, I'm also
Yeah,
getting
even I'm
that.
getting the childhood game question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Let me
Yeah,
just. Sorry
I'll
for
go to
that.
slide.
Requesting
Yeah,
you all to
go to slide. There
refresh.
is a.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry for that.
Okay, so these are the states that people are from: Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, Tamil Nadu, all over the country.
All over the country.
Right. Yeah. Thank you so much. Go ahead, maybe with the name. Meghalaya, wonderful. That's my home state.
Okay.
Yeah.
We'll move on to the next question.
Yes.
What language are you most comfortable speaking?
Tamil, Hindi, Telugu. So all of you, all your mother tongues, right?
Marathi, Hindi, English.
Right. Awesome. Everywhere again from across the country. Lovely to be in this where we have people from everywhere. The virtual made it possible. Go ahead, Raji.
Okay, I'll move on to the next question. What was your favorite childhood indoor game? Participants, I'm sure there's not only one, it might be many. So the options are open for multiple answers.
One per line, I think, right? So,
Icebreaker. Oh, see, the number of games are huge. Yeah. I know this. And each one comes in its own, form, right? Hide and seek of different types, right? Nice. This is lovely. So many. Clearly, chess is a winner because it's like really big. Ludo, Carom. These are the three leaders: chess, Ludo, and Carom. Yeah.
Snake and
And
ladder.
also participants are answering in the chat
Chat
room
as
also.
well. Yeah, Kabaddi, Gulli Danda, that's gone to the outdoors. Somebody has got the outdoor question as well. Maybe we should just move on.
Okay, yeah, I'll just move on to the next question. Thank you, participants.
Oh, it's already there. You have a whole bunch. And cricket is the clear winner in India. Yeah. Oh, nice to see. Badminton and yeah. Wow. Lovely. We have a whole bunch of answers now. Yeah.
Okay,
Move
I'll
on.
move on to the next question. Can children with blindness play your favorite games?
Raji, there's a
Yeah, that
Good to see the answers trickling in. Clearly, many people are in the maybe slot.
yeah.
Yeah.
So almost 55% of the participants feel maybe, 25 no, and 20 yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe is getting more votes. Okay.
And also like 26% totally feel it's no.
No.
Cannot. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you, participants.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, participants, for your active participation. Now we'll move on to the next part of the session, next part of the today's session. It is a small icebreaker activity. For this, I would request my colleague Devi to join me to conduct the activity.
Yeah, Devi is
Devi,
there.
you're there?
Yeah, Devi is already there.
Yeah. Shall we start, Devi?
Yes.
Yeah, Devi.
Yes. Yeah. Before we start, I would like to, wish my friend and Raji a very happy birthday because it's her birthday. And I want to wish Raji. Raji, can you hear me?
Yes, Devi, I can hear you.
So Raji, I want to wish you a very happy birthday. May you have a wonderful day and a wonderful year ahead. And, I have lots of gifts and surprises for you. So would you like to have all that?
I would like to have all your surprises, gifts and wishes, but a small correction, Devi, it's not my birthday today. My birthday is not today.
Really?
No, it's not today.
Uh-oh.
But thanks for your wishes,
So
and I'm waiting to get the gifts and surprises. But that is not so fair. You missed my birthday, or you got confused
sorry,
with
Raji.
my birthday.
Can you please tell me your birthday? Then I'll for sure I'll send you the gifts and surprises to you. But when is your birthday? I completely missed it.
Okay, so since you have missed my birthday, I'm not going to directly tell your birthday. I'm going to play a small guessing game. Okay, I'm going to give some clues to guess my birthday. Let me see if you get it. Then I think you'll also get a return gift from me.
Thank you so much. And I'm sure participants would help me.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, if you're ready to share the return gift, they'll be ready to help you. Participants, please help Devi in guessing my birthday. You can use a chat box to give your answers. Okay, so to start with, Devi, first let me give a clue to guess my birthday month.
Okay.
Okay, so the birthday month is an odd number.
Odd number. Okay, so we have January, March, May, July, September, and November.
Yeah, okay, 6
so
months.
Which one is it? Yeah, 6 months.
Okay, you want to take any help from the participants? Let me see any participants have guessed it. Okay, so out of the 6 months, which one do you think, Devi?
I am kind of little confused now that I forgot your birthday. So I'm not sure, is it May or July or when is it?
Okay, so to get the month for sure, the correct one, let me give you one more clue. I think this will help the participants also to guess it right.
Yes,
the order of the month and the number of letters in the month are the same.
So is it 9? The 9th is September is the 9th month and it has 9 letters in it. Am I right?
Yes, Devi, and I think Chinmay and Supriya, many people have given the answers now. September, yes.
So your birth month is September. We are in September. So, what is the date then?
For the date, again, let me give you some clues. Okay, so the clue is it's a prime number between 20 and 30.
A prime number between 20 and 30. So is it 23 and
I see many say 23 and 27. 27 is not a prime number.
27 a prime number or 29? 23 or 29?
Yeah, it's either 23 or 29, but it cannot be both the days. Which one?
Yeah, correct. So I think I'll give you more gifts, Raji. Please tell me what it is.
Okay, or give me let me give you. Okay, let me see who is going to give the right answer, either you or the participant. To get the number, you will have to solve an equation now. Okay, so the equation is if you add square of 5 and square of 2, you get this number.
Square of 5 is 25.
There are many answers, Devi, on this chat already.
So it's 29. So
Yes.
there are people who are calculating faster than me. So is it
Yeah.
29 September?
Yes, it is 29 September and it was
Oh,
yesterday.
yesterday?
Yes.
Okay, Raji, please don't mind. I will give you lots of surprises next year for sure.
Yeah, you just missed my birthday by a day. Thank you, Devi. Over to
Thank you, Raji. Dear participants, what we did just now, it's a small demo of a game which we call as birthday game. So it is about guessing the birth date and birth month, which children find it very exciting, especially if they don't know their birthdays. In case if the group is already aware of their birthdays, the dates can be changed. It can be any other date. It can be a random date, or it can be any event or any important date in the calendar, and children can play this game. And all these games are very flexible. That means you can change according to the level and the age group of the children. So we have played these games with children, and we have modified and customized based on their level and age group. And in this game, we have used the concepts of odd numbers, prime numbers, and simple arithmetic like squares and cubes and equations. So all these concepts can be used in the game. So I hope you have enjoyed this game. Moving on, we have one more icebreaker, and this time we have a few volunteers with us who will play the game with us. So I will explain the rule for this next icebreaker game, and it is called the multiples game. So how do we play this game? So we are going to call out some random numbers, a few random numbers one by one, and each number is associated with an action. So the number could be a multiple of 2 or 3 or 5. So if it is a multiple of 2, the action would be just one clap. If it is a multiple of 3, so we just scratch our head with both the hands. If it is a multiple of 5, then you can just pull your cheeks with both the hands. So, and there could be some numbers which could be a multiple where there could be 2 multiples of that number. So you have to think quick and show us the action. So are the volunteers ready?
So we show all the actions for the numbers, Devi?
Let's see, let's find out.
Okay, so if it is not a multiple of any, then what do we do?
Let's see what our volunteers do that. We'll
Okay.
find
Okay, can we
Let's
have
play
the
the game,
volunteers
and
on the
Raji would
screen?
call out the numbers. Yes.
Yeah, I can see Swati ma'am, Sunita ma'am, Sylvia ma'am, Sonia ma'am, Supriya ma'am. Yeah, Jaya ma'am. Okay, we start. Okay, participants, ready? Okay, so let me start with the easy number. The first number is number 22. Good. Okay, so the next number is 18. That's nice. Okay, let me move on to the next number, 27. Okay, 2043. Yeah, so Manohar said that's correct. Huh? Okay, now number 30. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Okay, so it was clap, scratch, and pulling your cheeks. Yeah, all three, because it was multiple of all three numbers. Okay, 67. Sir, no clap. Why are you clapping? Oh, no, 67 doesn't come in any.
No actions.
Okay. Thank you so much, participants. Hope you enjoyed. Over to you, Supriya ma'am.
Thank you so much, Raji and Devi. I'm sure all of you have taken this trip down memory lane by now. Yeah. So each time we play these games with teachers, it doesn't matter how many times we play, and I sure do go down memory lane, and back to sweet memories of fun-filled childhood, leisure, especially holidays. With the slightest idea that we were learning something. It's fun. So yeah, before I go on to the next, I hope all of you have at least one pen or pencil and a paper next to you. So maybe you might require it at some point in time for future activities. Okay, so now to give you a very brief background before we start off with the whole thing. So the VICT project, Computational Thinking for Students with Visual Impairment, was initiated in 2018 at Vision Empire. So we were incubated at IIIT Bangalore in 2017. The idea was to research and facilitate accessible STEM learning for children with visual impairment. Now, this was still and is still what is called a wicked problem, right? No one easy, straightforward solution. So students with visual impairment barely get a chance to study science and math. We've given them a raw deal over there. So to give you an idea, in Karnataka, out of the documented 45 schools for the blind, we found one school where these subjects are offered up to grade 10. The rest of them stop at 7th grade. And this is pretty much true almost throughout the country. So while we started with science and maths, but it was under the mentorship of Dr. Swami Manohar that we started looking at computational thinking in 2018. So we recognized at that time the huge effort, and it was Dr. Manohar who introduced us to the CSpathshala curriculum. And we recognized how much work had already been put in towards CT, and the next phase of vision empower activities began over there. And it was around ensuring that the children that we were working with who had already sort of missed the STEM bus, did not miss the CT bus as well, and the pun is totally intended. Okay, so now before we engage in some more play, now I'd like to visit some of what you all already know. Okay, you live and work with it every day, what is on the screen. So let's just take a peek into it to set the context of our work. Okay, because the question that we need to start with is why do we do VICT? Why VICT, right? So as all of you know, these are the themes of the CT curriculum from ACM, and you have systematic listing, counting, reasoning, and so on and so forth. And the first 5 of these, that is barring programming and digital literacy, the first 5 are covered up to grade 5, right? So in today's workshop, let's just pick up 3 areas from these, okay, and take a deep dive a little bit into these 3 areas, which are systematic listing, counting, and reasoning, iterative patterns and processing, and information processing. And so this will give you a little bit of better idea about our work, the work at Vision Empower and Microsoft Research. So in the following slides, actually, I have some activities which from the existing CT lesson, and I'm going to read out those lessons to you. But before that, I want to request you for something. I want to request all of you for a moment to close your eyes, yeah, and request you to please keep them closed till I ask you to open. Okay. Don't worry, it will be brief, right? And I will read out the activity from the slide. And yeah, no cheating, okay? Don't open your eyes. And those who can answer may unmute if possible, those who have the permissions, and answer if possible, if you can answer without seeing. And I hope everyone is ready for the activity, right? Okay, now all eyes closed, ready? Okay, Raji, go to the next slide. So I'm going to read out. How many squares do you see? How many squares have black dots in them, in circles? How many squares don't have any dots or circles? Okay. Next question. Count some more. Let us see what else is there in the farm. Can you tell how many bananas are there in the box? How many bananas would be required to make it 20 in all? Next question. What comes next? Let us play a simple game and understand more about patterns. All you have to do is guess the image in the blank box. Simple. Let us start. And the final question, circle the objects. Green circles for kitchen objects and blue circles for classroom objects. Okay, done? Okay, now you can open your eyes. Okay, so looks familiar, right? I'm sure, because many of you have been teaching and you know these slides in and out. Now the thing is, this is not new in C. This is not new in the curriculum created by CSpathshala. This is a common characteristic in all curriculum, especially STEM. Science, technology, engineering, mathematics. You can take any textbook in any children's literature or reference book, and because we know that a picture speaks 1,000 words, right? We just assume that this will work for everyone, right? But in the process, we become a little oblivious of the needs of persons with visual impairment, right? So we'll go quickly through some more lesson content, and you don't worry, you don't have to close your eyes. Just to appreciate that this is throughout. So say in counting and reasoning, you have how many gray dots are here, and then you have which is this animal, and then how far can you tell how many are there, and then what do you see? I see blocks. What is the shape? Yeah, and then go on to the next slide, Raji, and then and then we are expecting children to be able to see the dots and draw the lines or recognize the shape. So this is something which is common, throughout the thing. But at this point, let me tell you why we displayed this, right? This was not intended to show you that, what a dead end we hit and, for all of us to go on a guilt trip. And that was not the idea. Yeah, so let's do something and we'll figure where the challenges really are. So, okay, so now I hope all of you have a pen and a paper or, something next to you with which you can write. Yeah. Okay. So now I'm going to ask you to do this activity. Can you please again close your eyes? Okay. Close your eyes, and on the paper which you have next to you, use your pen and draw a heart. You know how children draw hearts on the school tables everywhere, right? Heart. They even draw an arrow to it and all. So you can draw a heart with your eyes closed, remember, okay? Tell me when you're done. With your eyes closed. I'll give you another 10 seconds. Yeah, done? Everyone is done with drawing a heart? Okay, now you can open your eyes and see what you did. You don't have to worry, you open your eyes and see what you did. Okay. Now, you can close your eyes. Close your eyes again. Now I'm going to give you some instruction. You can put your finger on the paper, the same paper where you draw the heart. Take another sheet or behind the same page. Just put your finger on the paper. Okay. Now take your pen and bring it to where your finger is on the paper. Okay. Now start drawing your heart exactly at that point. Start drawing your heart there. You draw the heart in such a way, go all the way around, draw your heart, and come back and stop exactly where your finger is. You know where your finger is on the paper. So you start drawing your heart, draw the whole heart, and come back and stop exactly where your finger is. That is where you began. Okay. And you're all done, I suppose. Okay. Now I hope you're all done. Now you can open your eyes. Okay. So now you must have quite a revelation, right? So now let's take a small poll. Raji, should we get the poll? Yeah. So the question is, were you able to draw the heart with your eyes closed? Can we have your answers? Yes, no, partially. Again, you need to go to the menti.com and use the code, or you can click on the link and just go and answer. Yeah. So far, it's like 1/3 of people now, certainly partially. Okay. So with your eyes closed, okay. Oh, good. More than 50% have been able to draw with their eyes closed at the first shot itself. Okay. Okay, without instructions, right? This is without instructions. Okay. Okay. Great. So yeah, so a large number percentage could draw even here. Now let's maybe move on to the next question, Raj. Now, were you able to draw the heart better after the instruction was given? Okay. So after the instruction was given, clearly a larger number have been able to draw after getting the instructions. Okay. Okay. That's right. Okay. Great. So I think you know that's sort of a revelation that what we just learned. So yeah, what we just learned is that given the right instructions, or at least some instructions with nothing at all, people with blindness can perform many tasks which, as sighted people, we think they cannot do, right? So with this perspective in place, now let's look at the numeracy skills we cover through the curriculum, right? So you're again familiar with the skills that are covered in the ACM CT curriculum, and you have them on the screen right now. Of course, in addition to the CT curriculum, when we actually implemented VICT, we also looked at some other, because the basic skills that are required for CT, as you have clearly demarcated within your curriculum also, is that you have numeracy as the foundational skill, right? And so for numeracy, we also referred to like the fonts or NCF 2005. And so this is a slightly extended list of numeracy skills, which we have included through our games. So basically, these are the skills which we will come back to later when we are looking at the activities. So now our task was to make the curriculum accessible. But what does that really mean, right? So basically, we needed to achieve these numeracy skills, right? Now, how? So we had to explore, and we actually have a whole session after the break where I will tell you how we went about it. Okay. But at this moment, let's do something more interesting instead of just listening to me. So relax a bit, sit back, and the way the next few moments you're going to spend is that we're going to demonstrate to you certain videos of children actually playing, actually working with us. And you need to identify, after seeing the children play, which of these skills the children have picked up through the game, right? So you will see the videos, and these videos are in the local languages of the children. They are all talking in their local languages, but we have English subtitles. So I hope that will be okay for you. So we begin with card game 0, which is comes under the theme of systematic listing, counting, and reading. And yeah, Raji, you can play the video.
ಇವಾಗ 5 ಜನ ಇದ್ದೀವಿ. 5 ಜನದಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು ವಿನ್ನರ್ ಆಗ್ತಾರೆ ನೋಡೋಣ. ಓಕೆ, ಸರಿ, ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಯಾರೀಗ?
ಸರ್, ಈಗ ಐಶಾ, ನಾನು ಗಾನವಿ, ಐಶಾ ಮುಗ್ದಿದೆ. ಈಗ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ನಾನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ?
ಹಾ, ಸರಿ, ಆಯ್ತು. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ವೈಷ್ಣವಿಂದಾನೆ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಣ. ಓಕೆ ವೈಷ್ಣವಿ, ನಮಗೂ ಸೇರ್ಸಿ ಹೇಳು.
ಚಿಕ್ಕ ನಂಬರ್ ಎಲ್ಲರೂ ಒಂದೊಂದು ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ ಸರ್. ನೀವು ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಚಿಕ್ಕ ನಂಬರ್ ಆಡೋಣ. ಮಿಸ್, ನೀವು ಒಂದು ಕಾರ್ಡ್ ತಗೊಳ್ಳಿ, ಚಿಕ್ಕ ಗೇಮ್ ಆಡೋಣ.
ಓಕೆ,
ತಗೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
ಚಿಕ್ಕ ನಂಬರ್ ತಾನೆ? Okay.
ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಇರೋದು ಫ್ಲವರ್ ಕ್ಲಬ್ಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ 5 ಕ್ಲಬ್ಸ್.
ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಇರೋದು ಕ್ಲಬ್ಸ್ ಆದ್ರೆ 10.
ನಿನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಏನ್ ನಂಬರ್ ಇದೆ? ಕ್ಲಬ್ 2 ಇದೆ. ಐಶಾ ನಿನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ ಯಾವ ನಂಬರ್ ಶೇಪ್ ಏನು? 6 ಕ್ಲಬ್. ನನ್ನ ಹತ್ರ 8 ಸ್ಪೇಡ್ ಇದೆ. ಕಾಣವಿ ಬಿಟ್ಟೆ.
Yeah, now we move on to, so the cards were actually, these were the cards designed by the team and what you saw the children play with, special tactile cards. Now we move on to the tactile board games. Yeah.
Okay, start Ashok.
4 मैम. मैम ladder में दीदी मतलब तो
मैम 1 number, 2
Yes.
number, 3 number, 4.
repeat पे मैम.
Yes, Ashok. Oh, one more ladder.
Yes मैम.
Go up.
मैम
हाँ ಎರಡು ಹಾಕೊಂಡೆ 2 1 2 very good.
ಓಹೋ 50.
ನೋಡ್ರಿ
ಸೊ ಏನ್ ಬಂತು
ladder
ಅಶೋಕ್? ರಾಮು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿಗೆ ಒಂದ್ ಲ್ಯಾಡರ್ ಸಿಕ್ತು ದೊಡ್ಡದು. ನಾವು ಯಾವ ನಂಬರ್ ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ ಅವ್ನ್ ಗೊತ್ತಾ? 93 ರೀಚ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಾನೆ.
6 ಇಲ್ಲ
ಯಾವ ನಂಬರ್ ಬಂತು ಅಶೋಕ್?
1 मैम.
ಏನಿದೆ ಅಲ್ಲಿ?
ನಾಲ್ಕು ಕೆವಿನ್ ನೋಡಿ.
Yes.
So that was one, and then you can see a demonstration of another one here.
Okay.
ಆರ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ತಪ್ಪಾಯ್ತಲ್ಲ. ಅಯ್ಯೋ
ಎಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀಯಾ ಅಶೋಕ್?
The teachers fighting for her turn.
ಯಾರನ್ನ ಒಳಗೆ ಹೋಗಿಲ್ವಾ?
मैम ನಾವು 3 ಬಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಹೋಗ್ತೀರಿ. ಅಲ್ಲ 6 ಬಿದ್ದಿದ್ರೆ ಡಬಲ್ ಅಟ್ಟಿತ್ತು ನಿಮ್ದು.
ಏನಂದ 6
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ಸ್ ಅಶೋಕ್. ಅವನೇ ನನ್ನ ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಇರ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದಾನೆ.
వచ్చి బాగా వచ్చినా ಓ ಬಿಡುವಾಗಪ್ಪ
ನಂದು ಅದು
ಇಲ್ಲ 2 ಬಿದ್ರೆ 5 ನಂಗೆ
5
ಒಂದು ಕಾಯಿನ್ ಬಿಡ್ಬೇಕಲ್ವಾ? ನಾವು ಹೆಚ್ಚಿದು
1 2
4 ಬಿಡಲ್ಲ
4 5
ನಾನು 4 ಬಿಡು
4 1
Okay, now we move on to the next game, which is pebbles and counting. So after this, we'll have a poll, so you can see how the children are playing with pebbles online.
എല്ലാരും എല്ലാ ഐറ്റവും ആ വലിയ പാത്രത്തിലേക്ക് അതിട്. റെഡിയാണോ എല്ലാരും? ഓക്കെ റെഡി? ഓക്കെ. എല്ലാത്തിലും എന്തൊക്കെ ഐറ്റമുണ്ട്? കടല, പയറ്, ഏലക്ക. കടല, പയറ്, ഏലക്ക. ഓക്കെ. പയറ്. എല്ലാരും 5 6 വെച്ച് 3 പാത്രത്തിലോട്ട് സെപ്പറേറ്റ് ചെയ്യണം എല്ലാ ഐറ്റവും. അതിനാലേ 5 ആണോ 6 ആണോ? 6. ശരി. ഓക്കെ. ഓക്കെ 1 2 3 സ്റ്റാർട്ട്.
Counting away, sorting and counting.
എല്ലാരും സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്യാ. ഫിനിഷ്. ഫിനിഷ്. അത് വെച്ചൂലോ.
Not allowed.
എല്ലാരും സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്യണ്ടേ?
So yeah, I'm sure you would have enjoyed seeing them and see how the children clearly enjoyed, right? So we'll take a poll now, like I told you. So the last game was a pebble counting game. So let's just take a poll. Raji, can we go to the Menti and the question will come up and you can answer within 30 seconds, right? Yeah. So the question is, which of these learning areas were covered in the pebble sorting and counting games? So I hope you can see on the screen, it's a little tiny. Number recognition, quantity discrimination, positioning and locating patterns, systematic counting, discrete modeling. Okay. So answers are coming in. Yeah. Okay, the percentage is higher in systematic counting, number recognition. Okay, nobody feels this can be used for discrete modeling clearly. Okay. 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 Okay, Raji, you want to go with after 30 seconds? Yeah. Okay. So clearly, you can see that the correct answers were number recognition, quantity discrimination, and systematic counting currently. But I'm sure, like others who have answered in the other areas, I'm sure there are reasons why you're saying, and I'm sure we can actually use this game to learn those skills which you have identified as well. And there would be ways to do it, and that is why we need to talk to you. So great. So now this was about systematic listing and counting. Now let's go on to the next area, right? So the next theme is going to be iterative patterns and processes. Now again, it's entertainment time. Now you can watch some children play and recognize shapes and patterns, and let's see what we can do after that, and patterns of various kinds. Yeah.
A चतुर्भुज, B
त्रिभुज, C गोलाकार.
हमारा A चतुर्भुज, B त्रिभुज, C गोलाकार.
So the shapes that they're using are created after we gave instructions to them and their parents, and they created it at home.
चतुर्भुज, त्रिभुज, गोलाकार, चतुर्भुज, त्रिभुज, गोलाकार, चतुर्भुज, ना गोलाकार, चतुर्भुज, त्रिभुज, गोलाकार, चतुर्भुज, त्रिभुज.
CAB.
CAB. है.
You guess the pattern. Right? Yes.
चतुर्भुज, चतुर्भुज, गोलाकार, त्रिभुज, गोलाकार, चतुर्भुज, गोलाकार.
है.
त्रिभुज गोलाकार
A B B C.
Listen now.
Oh, that's चतुर्भुज.
चतुर्भुज
त्रिभुज त्रिभुज गोलाकार.
চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার তারপরে গোলাকার ত্রিভুজ চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার ত্রিভুজ গোলাকার.
Yeah, I think he was confused himself.
A C B C. আমি পাঁচটা বলছি হ্যাঁ চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার ত্রিভুজ চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার.
You can see how they're getting more aggressive and ambitious.
আবার কি আবার
চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার ত্রিভুজ চতুর্ভুজ গোলাকার.
আচ্ছা
ঠিক আছে
A C B
A C
এবারে A C
আই দেখ
A C B C
হ্যাঁ এটা দিতে দিতে আসছি এবারে এটা নিজে একটু নিজে করে দাও স্যার SCB.
আমি তোরটা কইছি.
Okay, so moving on now, this is again a patterns game, and you can see how the children are using body percussion, sounds to play this game online.
Please join all. Today we have to play Bim Bom Bidi Bob. Bim is clap. Bom is snapping. And Bidi is lifting to tight. Bum bum bidi bidi bum. Bidi bum bidi bidi bum bim bum. Bum bidi bidi bum. Bum bim bum bidi bidi bum. Bidi bum bidi bidi bum bim bum.
They're actually giving challenges by creating their own tunes. Okay, so we've now seen this. So the last one was body percussion, and I hope you all enjoyed. And then we'll take one more poll over here before we go on to the last game. Yeah. So again, which were the areas covered in the body percussion game? Systematic counting, or I hope you all can. Relating
numbers to quantity, simple arithmetic, patterns, shapes and spatial understanding, positioning and locating.
Lots of answers coming in. A large percentage said patterns, of course, very good. Okay. Great. Yeah, patterns is getting, yeah. Awesome. Okay, Raji, you want to? There's a huge overriding of. So the correct answer clearly is patterns, simple arithmetic, and systematic counting. Yes. And these are the essential three skills that are covered in through this game, right? So now we'll go on to the last, and we'll watch the children crunching some data along with their nuts. So let's see what they do. So this is money market.
We are playing the market game. and I am the customer, and Spandana will shopkeep it.
Here in this play, we are not using real money. We are using paper cutouts, circle, square, and triangle. The circle shape is number 5 rupees. The triangle is 1 rupees. The square is 20 rupees. In my shop, there is one teddy bear, Barbie set, and candies, and vegetables, and talking Tom, and Barbie set.
I want a Barbie set.
Barbie set is 50 rupees, maybe.
50 rupees. Okay. I'm giving you a 1 square. I'm giving you 5 squares.
5 square will be 100 rupees, maybe.
1 minute. Yeah.
But this is 50 rupees, right?
1 minute. Okay, I will give you 10 squares. I'm giving you 2 squares and 2 circles.
Okay.
Okay. And I want a talking Tom.
Okay. Give me 40 rupees then for the talking Tom.
Okay. I'm giving you 2 squares.
What?
2 squares.
Okay.
Okay, so that was the market game. We couldn't record too much of it because of lack of time, but I'm sure you understand. And this is a game which is hugely popular among children as well as teachers. Actually, they love to play this game and haggle with each other about how less they want to pay for 1 kg aloo and 1 kg potato and things like that. So it's really fun. So now let's just go to the poll. So I think the poll needs to, oh, it's already answered. Oh, wonderful. Some people have already answered. Which are the areas? Yeah. Money is clearly, yeah. Right. Yeah. Great. I mean, lots of inputs in all areas. Yes, it can be used for number recognition. Absolutely. We've done this also. And it's wonderful when children play these games and you actually see them play with peers and learn. Because, you know, somebody who doesn't know money and then can attribute a shape to a particular value and then play around with it. Awesome. Yeah. So clearly a huge number is there. So the correct answer, I mean, there's no one correct answer, but the fact is the game was intended to cover the 3 areas of money, data, and simple arithmetic. Awesome. Thank you so much for participating. And now that you witnessed the children playing and you acknowledged that these are the learning areas that can be covered by these games. Surely you would like to try some, I'm sure, with your children in school or online, however. Now, to make it easier for you, what we have done is we've designed some pedagogical tools which can be used before we start embarking on this journey of playing the games with the children. Because it's very important that, we play the game right. We don't want to do play this all over again and then, recognize after 5 years that, oh, we didn't do this right. So we had to work with a lot of experts to come up with these games, and I'll explain to you later what we did. But right now, we would like to introduce to you our accessible learning management system, Subodha, and I'll hand it over to Sylvia to do this.
Good afternoon, everyone. I am Sylvia Veeraraghavan, and I play the role of a program director at Vision Empower. Today, I will be talking to you about our accessible learning management system that we call Subodha. So just to give you a brief background, the students with visual impairment learn differently, as many of you would already know. Hence, it's important for us to use material and activities that are completely accessible to them. There's a dire need for such resources that can be used by the teachers and by the students. Resources that would help empower the teachers and in turn, which would help them to educate their students. Vision Empower strives to provide such accessible resources for teachers and for students with visual impairments. And as all of you would know, in the present state of having to social distance, sharing of resources has been difficult. And hence, there is a reason that we need Subodha today. So what is Subodha? Subodha is our online platform where we have all resources which are accessible for students with visual impairment and for their educators. So what really makes Subodha unique? So the most important thing is not just is the content accessible, and all the content that is built is being specifically made sure that it is accessible for all the VI persons, but the platform itself, Subodha as a platform itself, is built keeping usability and the needs of the visually impaired person in mind. We've also tried to overcome language barriers by including support for many regional languages in Subodha. So today, if you look at Subodha, we have Bangla, Kannada, Hindi, Tamil, English. These are some of the languages that we currently have in Subodha. So with this, I would now like to move forward to a product demo. So what you see now is the Subodha login page, and these credentials, everybody can log into Subodha, and it's a free for all system, a learning management system that's available. But we would give you the login credentials that you would need to log into the system. So once you have logged into the system, you will first be taken to the dashboard. And since this is the first time that you would be logging in, your dashboard would obviously be empty. So if you go to the Explore Courses and click on the Explore Courses tab, it would take you to the screen where all the different subjects that are currently available on Subodha will be displayed to you. So I'm going to be clicking on the games computational thinking to give you a view of the games that are already been uploaded on Subodha. So currently we have 45 different games which have been uploaded on Subodha across the different levels. So the first level that we're going to be talking about is the level 1 CSpathshala for teachers. And under this, we would look at the different skills and the sub-skills that would be available for each of the different levels and for each of the different skills. So if you look at the first one, which is systematic counting, counts and understands systematic listing. So this would be the first one. And these are the different games that would ensure that the child is understanding systematic counting. So these are the different games that are available using which these the skill and the sub-skill can be understood by the visually impaired student. So I'm going to add all these courses to my dashboard. So now I have been enrolled into all these courses, and you will need to do something similar to get enrolled into the courses. And now if you go to your dashboard, all the different courses that you have been enrolled into would come up on your screen. So I'm going to be clicking on one particular game so that you get an understanding of how these games are, how the play plans are, and give you an understanding of the template that we are currently using for the play plans. So if you look at the card game 0 play plan, right up front, you have the game overview and then the basic rules for play. And below that, you have the various sessions that are there in the play plan. So, so what this exactly means is that every session increases the complexity of the game. And so the session 2 would be a little more complex session than the session 1. And session 3 would be a little more complex than the session 2. And the basic rules for play would actually tell you the different materials that would be required, the prerequisites, and the number of children who will be playing the game, and what the objective of the game is. So you could press the next button to actually go into the details of every session and understand exactly how the game needs to be played with the child to ensure that the child is picking up the concepts that are required for the particular skill. So this is how the play plan looks. And as I said, there are more than 45 play plans which have already been uploaded onto Subodha. And any of you who are interested, we'll be happy to give you all credentials, and you all could explore the system by yourselves and go through these play plans and share with us any of your thoughts that you would like to share with us. Thank you.
So, thank you for this presentation, and for the participants, there's just one, before we close the session, there's the first part of the session. There's one poll on Subodha. Now that you have seen Subodha, there are just 2 questions. You can take a poll and then we will take the break. So the poll question will come up on your screen now. Would you like to use VE Subodha to play the CT games with your children, with your students? Okay. Okay, that's very encouraging. And then you can go on to the next question, maybe Raji. So after this workshop, would you be interested in creating some activities which are accessible, some games which are accessible? Would you be interested? Okay, okay. Okay. A lot of people on the chat window are saying yes. That's very encouraging. Great. So quite a large number of you are interested in making accessible games. That's very interesting and encouraging, because surely to make inclusive education a reality, we need many more people to be in this bandwagon. So thank you so much. I think this has given us a great insight. And we will take our 15-minute break now. Sonia, is that correct? And then we come back, right?
Yeah, the break was at 4:15. We still have little time if you would like to.
Okay, so
add
yeah,
something.
Good afternoon, everyone.
Small addition. Some of the participants are asking for a link to the URL of
Subodha. Yeah, we can give the link, Professor Meenakshi. Only thing is they will require credentials which we have to give them. So it's free, but we will give them the credentials. So we can certainly post the link here, and then Raji or
the page would say how they could get the credentials.
Yeah, and then we can also share. You can just send an email to this. I'm just typing up an email ID here, and you will be provided with the login ID. Yeah.
Yeah.
Also, Meenakshi, if there are any quick questions right now before people forget before the break,
yes,
maybe
that's also
we can
fine.
take a couple of them. Yeah.
Yeah, we have time for questions.
Yeah, that's the Subodha link which Anshuman has posted. You can take a look at it, but to log in, you would require something which you can send a mail to Vision Empire Trust with a request, and we will come back to you with your login ID. Yes, Professor. Any questions you can take for a few minutes?
Yeah, feel free to post your questions if you have any in the chat box. I'll read it out to the speakers. Or if you would like more information, like some of you wanted the URL, any other query that you might have towards them, most welcome. So, Sonia, the break at 4:15 is for 15 minutes, right?
Yeah.
Yes, Meenakshi, 15 minutes.
15 minutes.
Yeah.
While we are waiting, maybe I can ask a question.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, so I wanted to ask about your experience in working with teachers, teachers of visually impaired children. Can you please say something about that as well? And because you've been,
Yeah, so yeah, thank you for asking. I think it's a very, very important, very pertinent question, because I will be sharing with you our experience through the pilot. And one of the very important findings in our race about the research. In fact, when we began, like I told you, we began with science and math, and there itself we found that of course most of these children are in the special schools, and more than 80% of the teachers are themselves blind, right? So because of that, and they themselves have not studied these subjects beyond grade 7. And so for them to come up with innovative ways to teach was quite far-fetched to expect. So, so certainly our experience, but what we found though is that, and which was very encouraging, is that when we went to the schools, we found that the teachers are very willing to, learn new things or find new ways to connect with the children. And the children, for one thing, is in these schools, in the special schools for the blind, while, yes, they stop studying science and math in class 7, but they really adore their teachers. They love their teachers, they want to be with them, they want to learn from them. They have a very good equation with their teachers, most of these special schools. And that was very encouraging because we really felt that that could be the one, probably plus point where, anything that you wanted to, maybe these teachers could help us do. So that was one thing. And of course, in the, when we moved from offline to online because of COVID, again, there were a lot of findings about the teachers, and yeah, we can share those with you in the after break.
Yeah, there's one more question from Sri Ranjani Ranganathan in the Q&A box. The question reads as follows. I was wondering if you could comment on the role of language in the building of computational thinking skills in children with visual impairment, especially in the context of designing learning environments.
Right. So yes, this is again a very, very pertinent. And as you would have recognized that when we built Subodha, the first thing one of the critical requirements was to make it available in all languages that we could. So basically right now it is available in 5 languages. So all our play plans, you can actually eventually see, you will eventually be able to see it in all the local languages, because I think it's very important, because as you noticed in the games that we were playing, we needed to communicate with the child in their mother tongue, because you cannot expect to play the game in English and every child to be able to pick up. So even in the mother tongue it was difficult, because one skill which we found lacking in children, and I don't think this is related only to children with visual impairment. I think this is a common problem which has been identified across the country. Reading comprehension skills are very poor in primary age group, right? And so, but then within the visually impaired community, that's even more pronounced, because they come to school with a huge gap, one thing. And then when they start school, there is what we call a book famine. So the content that a child should read at an age appropriate level is missing. And so they don't read at their grade appropriate level. And so by the time they're in grade 5, it doesn't matter which language. So you could be in most of these schools, by the way, special schools are state-run schools. So all the schools come under the Ministry of Social Justice, and they are run by the state, and they come under the state syllabus. And most of them follow, the vernacular of the state. So it's very important that to come up with the learning, computational thinking learning environment along with the current school curriculum. That was a great finding for us also. And therefore, right at the start, we ensure that we engage with the children in their mother tongue. For example, as you saw in Kerala, the children were playing in Malayalam. They were calling out to each other, playing, and they were having so much fun. The same doesn't happen unless you are so comfortable in that language. So that was a revelation, and yes, we are striving to make sure that everything is available in the local language.
Yeah, thank you, Supriya. One more question from Kritika Krishnamurthy. She says she's curious to know the nature of materials and resources that you
Yeah.
used.
Right. So they're very, again, a very critical thing. So if you see before, so first let's just go back to, what kind of materials do we use for either whether it's game or whether it's any concept you want to teach, because you need to compensate for their visual impairments, because you need to give them the skills that they need, the concepts they need to pick up through different sensory mechanisms. So the materials need to cater to those. So it could be touch, it could be hearing. So, the rest of the other sensory mechanisms need to be used. And of course, it's very important that we, when we are saying all the rest, so if it's tactile, but again, just giving a tactile diagram or, just creating a tactile out of what is there in the maybe textbook is not enough. This is what we found, because there has to be what you can call a grammar to it, right? The child has to recognize what is it. So if you give them a picture and the child doesn't know whether they're holding it upside down or, laterally inverted, right? So you have to tell them how to hold the picture so that they know which is the top and which is the bottom. So it begins right there. And then going forward, the different kinds of textures that you use so that they can differentiate between different things, or say shapes. So I'll give you a very small example in this regard. So we, as you know, we collaborate with many partners who are experts in children's education for the content. So say, for example, I give you an example of Jodogyan. So Jodogyan is a very well-researched, has a very well-researched set of tools, pedagogical tools, which they use for children. And one of them, say, is the Ganit Mala. So in the Ganit Mala, you can do so many things using the Ganit Mala. And you have these 10 white, 10 red, 10 white, 10. Now, if we wanted to use the same thing for our students, it was not possible, even though it was such an interesting tool, because they're not seeing the colors, right? And the balls are all of the same. So our educational coordinators came up with something very innovative. What they did, the 10th ball of the mala has been made bigger and the texture has been made different. So now the child knows where is the, every 10th beat. And then they can do the same thing. And of course, in Ganit Mala, you have the marker. So you can use the marker to place and play the game. So similarly, so this is an example, and like that, we've improvised on several other tools as well.
Yeah, thank you. I think there are a lot of questions. They came in the chat window. So maybe we'll take two, and if Supriya can stay on and answer the questions during the break.
I'm sure. I'll be glad to, Professor.
Yeah, so there's a question from Devi Shri who asks how to make these games using any graphics tool for such students.
Okay, so graphics tools. So the thing is, if you just, without tactile, just a graphic tool, I'm not sure exactly what kind of tools we are talking about, but yes, there are certain tools. So there is, for example, a software called Tactile View. So Tactile View is a software which we use extensively for the textbooks as well as for now going forward for CT, of course, a lot. So using Tactile View, you can draw the picture in that using that tool, and then you can export it to Duxbury. Duxbury is the software which is used for printing Braille. And so you can print it and import it into Duxbury and then print it using a Braille embosser. So that is one kind of graphics tool which you can use to print the tactile diagrams. There is another tool from Enability Foundation called the Tactograph. The Tactograph, Professor Anil Prabhakar from IIT Madras, it's his invention. And that comes with a software. That's a graphics tool. So all you have to do is scan the picture, and then when you see the picture on your screen, what you need to do is you need to go and identify the outline or what you want to actually get printed in line diagram. So you can have a 3D picture, but when it comes to a line diagram, you might want something else. So in that picture, you do that. And then just like how we used to use plotters earlier, so this can be printed using the Tactograph, which actually uses a very low cost, way to print using Fevicol actually. And we use Fevicol and different colors and print tactile diagram. So this is one. Similarly, RLF, the Raise Lines Foundation in Delhi at Assistic Delhi, they have come up with a tool with which they create diagrams, and we have used many of their diagrams. So yeah, there are many such tools also, graphics tools, but with the perspective of eventually being able to create a comprehensible tactile diagram.
Yeah, thank you. So maybe one last question we'll take from Geeta. What are the challenges faced by the teachers?
Oh yeah, so yeah, that's
a long, probably a long answer.
Yeah, that's a very long, but I'm sure there are two. If I can break it down into two parts, yeah. So, the teachers who are sighted, first of all, just like all of us who are sighted, who took time to understand, forget about the challenges, even the capabilities of the children, right? Challenges many people can understand, and we actually take a stance after we recognize their challenge. We feel that okay, this is too difficult for them. But what we really need to recognize as teachers, and that is where the larger challenge is, that to understand their capabilities, what is it that they can do, and then to leverage on their capabilities to be able to say, for example, for computational thinking, as you would have recognized in the games, that we were certainly there were many challenges, but you can see how the children were overcoming. So the Pebbles game, for example, so when we train the teachers, during the sessions, we ask them to actually come to the training with these pebbles, and these pebbles are not always stones. I mean, these could be rajma beans, or anything at home, basically. So and then to be able to use those and then differentiate on shape, size, and everything else. And we have to recognize that there's also a huge population of low vision children in this country. And for them, color is very important. So it's also very important to keep that in mind. Usually what happens is, when a child is low vision, they are admitted to the schools for the blind because they cannot cope up in the regular school. And there they have a problem with, because they are not always ready to jump into Braille and, everything else. And they don't need to actually, because the teachers should be able to handle low vision differently. But this is a challenge. This is a big challenge which teachers have, because in the schools, in the special schools for the blind, you have teachers handling, a mixed group, just like every other school. So you have children with different kinds of skills, and at the same time, you have each child with a different kind of visual impairment. And therefore, it's very important. So what we have called individualized education plan, that becomes again very important, because the teacher needs to know the child very well and to be able. So that is a challenge which I don't know how many teacher trainings really cater to that as much. So this is one. Other than that, of course, one other big challenge that the teachers face, and they keep telling us about it, is the lack of books, the lack of material, lack of pedagogical, tools which can be used in the classroom, etc. Which, more than actually a lack, there is a lack of awareness about what exists. So that is where I think is a bigger challenge.
Yeah, thank you, Supriya. Just one last request. One teacher has asked if you could send the name of the graphic tool that you talked about in the chat box.
Oh, sure. I'll just put it.
Yeah, so since we are running slightly late, we'll take a very short break and reconvene at 4:30 sharp for part 2 of this workshop. Thanks all.
They may need a break, no? I mean, Supriya might need a break.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Maybe
So
10
much.
minutes if she wants, and so it's her call.
We will come back in 5 minutes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
ये देखो टेस्टिलेशंस गणित माला ये डाइस जोड़ो ज्ञान वंडरफुल
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
If there are questions, I could take 1 or 2 more questions. I'm perfectly all right with that also.
Yeah, I think, there's one last question you could probably ask. Priyanka Thakur is asking, that is a wonderful work that you're doing. What motivated you to get into this field?
Oh yeah, that's a question. I think that's again a million. people ask, and I think the motivation was Vidya. For those of you who haven't met Vidya, you will meet her in the next session after break. Towards the end of the session, you will meet her. Basically, she was the motivation. She was a postgraduate from the IIIT Bangalore, where I was, as Dr. Meenakshi told you, I was taking a course there. And at that time, I interacted with her, and then I was very impressed by, and not impressed with myself about the lack of my knowledge about their capabilities. And then I started working with some children. And then after her graduation, Vidya, as you know, was the gold medalist. She was the topper from in her batch in 2017. And then she wanted to start something in this area. So that's when I joined her. And then both of us with Professor Amit Prakash, who is at IIIT Bangalore, who is my thesis supervisor and also Vidya's guide. And with his mentorship and with support from some other faculty members at IIIT, including Professor Meenakshi, who's been very, very supportive right from the beginning, we started this.
Yeah, thank you, Supriya. So feel free to stay back and
yeah, thank you, Meenakshi.
So we'll definitely do that. Yeah, sorry, somebody else was talking.
Yeah. So it was such a wonderful session, ma'am. What an interactive, and codings made this particular session very interesting and very exciting, and a lot of research scope I find in this particular work. So that was really interesting one. So thank you very much, ma'am Supriya and her team, and also Professor Meenakshi. So now, before we shortly begin with our second session, just to remind you that we would like to we are organizing one cultural program on 2nd October after the conference. So interested attendees, they are requested to send their details to Mrs. Swati Sumesh. You would be seeing the details on the screen. You can contact on the numbers. So if any interested teachers want to showcase their talent in dance forms, any singing, they want to give shairi, they want to perform it. So we have a very limited seats. So hurry up! You want to give the registrations by tomorrow. So there are few hours in life that are more agreeable than the hours dedicated to the ceremony known as afternoon tea. So after this workshop, we are going to have this Chai Pe Charcha. Please stay online with us. Let us have some poll questions now. Chai. Can we have poll questions on the screen? Yeah, excited. So I'm sure the attendees are very excited. The questions are, how do you feel to be back again? Are you excited, sad, tired, or happy? What do you find scariest? And another question is, which of this would be hardest to live without? Chocolate, music, your favorite drink, your phone, or TV streaming?
Chocolate. I love chocolate, but I don't eat it. Coffee.
I'm sure most of you must have done with your poll.
Happy. Heights, flying, happy, which is fun. Excited heights. No, I'm talking about the scariest.
I hope that everyone attended this poll.
Devashri. Small spaces. You're scared of what?
None of these.
Geeta is scared of?
None of these.
None of this. You're scared of what? None of these?
None of this.
So what are you scared of?
No, I'm not scared of
anything.
Nothing. I'm just enjoying this conference.
No, I'm talking about these options: heights, flying, spaces, work, needed, whatever.
I would select flying.
Flying. And what is it you're hardest to live without?
Oh, I just love chocolates.
Chocolates.
Yeah. Can we have it
Why?
now?
But I can't find
But
a
it's
single person.
virtually, so it's going to be, everyone is tempting.
Your favorite drink? Sushi? So you can't live without tea?
No.
Because
we have Jackie Churcha.
So he'll be the
because I'm a teacher, I love tea.
I love tea.
I love chocolates.
Yeah, teachers can't stay without tea.
But it's not a single person who's saying they cannot live without chocolate. How about TV streaming? No. Mobile phone, we have 33%. But I think 50% goes for the music.
Yes.
I
do agree with this.
That's good, Devashri.
Oh.
And 17 are feeling happy. And if you see the scariest part, 44% are actually scared of height. 22 for flying.
Oh, that's an amazing facts we had been reported with the polls.
Rolling time is less.
But 50% love music. So I don't know whether music, the love for music because of work from home.
Can we begin?
It's already 4:30.
Yeah, we can begin. I'm just trying to, this is just in response to this repeated question by R. Satya Prabha Devi Dharman. I think Supriya is probably gone for a break.
No,
so
I'm
kindly
here.
wait.
Is there
and
a
then,
specific question, Professor?
yeah, I think in response to the earlier question on this graphic tool, you had mentioned a tool, and there is one participant who would like to know the name of the tool you mentioned.
Yeah, I typed it in twice on the chat. I think I'll type again. Tactile view.
Yeah, so Satya, I think your Supriya says your question has been answered, so I hope. So please look at if you have see if you have a direct message.
Yeah, I can be reached. I'll just put in my mail ID so that you can. My mail ID on the chat box. Any of you have. So there was one question which was very interesting. Is that what is the main cause of blindness in the country? So Really, honestly speaking, this is a question which needs to be probably handled. But there used to be one, when we were doing our research, one reason where a lot of children became blind at birth was due to premature delivery, and clearly the mothers were not as well nourished or whatever, and so yeah, that was one of the causes. And if you notice nowadays, there has been this radio broadcast, which says that protect your child from blindness, ensure that there is no premature delivery, and feed your women when they're carrying things like that. So that is one of the reasons, clearly. I think that's it. And I think maybe we can now start so that, because I think there is a lot of interesting things for researchers in the second half. Professor Dr. Manohar also will have, so we can always take more questions out.
So this was the end of the session 1. Now we'll begin with the session 2. So we have another eminent speaker with us, Mr. Manohar Swaminathan, Principal Research, Microsoft Research India. So to start the session, may I request our session chair, Professor Umesh Deshpande, VNIT Nagpur, to please introduce and welcome our next guest. Over to Umesh, sir.
Thank you, madam. So the first session was really very interesting and eye-opener for all of us to understand what are the challenges that we need to face in order to have computational thinking for visually impaired. So welcome to this second session, and all of us know the speakers. I just want to thank them again for being with us for the entire day. So Supriya De, she is the founder of Vision Empowerment, and Dr. Manohar Swaminathan, Principal Research Scientist at Microsoft Research. And we had very nice activities which were conducted by Rajeshwari Madam, Devi Madam, Sylvia Madam showed us a demo of Subodha, and I know that Anshuman is there in the background. So all of them are with us, and let's proceed with the second session without any break. Over to you, Supriya Madam. Thanks a lot.
Are you muted, Supriya?
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I think my mistake. Am I audible now?
Yeah.
Sure. Okay. So welcome back to the second half of the VICT workshop. So I'm sure by now you have a pretty good idea of what VICT is all about and why we even started this intervention. Okay. So I think we also appreciated the fact that inclusive education is not the responsibility of the curriculum creators alone, right? But also the implementers, is us. And I'm sure by now you're tired of polls, or else I would have asked this question that what was the most important perspective you gained through the first session. But then we conduct awareness sessions, and Pragya, we call our training sessions Pragya, training for sighted teachers as well. And the most important takeaway they cite has always been the awareness that these children are equally capable, and it requires just a little thought on making the materials and the pedagogy inclusive. So you notice that we followed the same outcome-based methods, through indicators and through the same learning areas of the curriculum, but without the child recognizing it. And of course, for the most of us, seeing is believing. And so, you witnessed some of our play sessions with grades 1 to 3 across the country. Now let's take a step back and see how we got here. Right? So why do we need to do this? Why do we need to, why do I need to tell you how we got here? So the reason is that the fact is that we have been able to create a pilot and play plans to cover the numeracy part of the CT learning areas for grades 1 to 3 over the last 3 years. This year, we are working on the middle school curriculum. And all of you know that there's lots more to be covered. So I'd like to invite all of you, since you are experts in this field, to join us in this activity and make CT accessible for every child in the country, irrespective of their disability. And thereby, also meet the ambitious inclusive education goals of the NEP, that we have set for ourselves. So at the outset, even before proceeding, I'd like to acknowledge the huge contribution of our mentors at IIIT Bangalore and Microsoft Research, and for the sustained patience of Microsoft to let us even begin, embark on this research project to explore the possibilities for future interventions. Now, Vision Empower was working with children as special schools, and since these schools in India are where the majority of children with blindness are huddled away, we work with these schools. We had some insights into the challenges in STEM studies, but as I mentioned to Professor Ramanujan, that our biggest challenge when it came to CT was that more than 80% of the teachers in these schools that we worked with were themselves blind. So the research question that we needed to address was, how should the CSpathshala CT curriculum be implemented for children with visual impairment in special schools? This was the specific question with which we began our pilot. And for this, we designed experiments, and we began with the principles of qualitative research. So we designed the pilot intervention in 3 schools. And I must tell you that we were very fortunate to begin with a research team which comprised of, just the right mix. So we had 2 postgraduates, both toppers in their fields, who were visually impaired and had been through all the challenges themselves. So they were immersed in it, they knew it. So one of them was the founder of VICT herself as an inspiration. So we had an expert special educator with a postgraduate degree in teaching visually impaired students from the University of Florida. And we had postgraduates in both education and mathematics who were extremely passionate and are extremely passionate about this research. The team was led by a very able program director who had huge experience with turnkey projects in both corporate and the not-for-profit sectors. The design framework we used was entirely the brainchild of Dr. Swami Manohar and Dr. Joy Jitwal. And Dr. Manohar has lived with us through all the travails over the last 3 years from day Z. Despite the Ludic approach with the children at school, we had a very systematic based and milestone-based project execution. Now, the entire project was planned to include the stakeholders right into the design process. The students, teachers, academic experts, and technologists also, as you can see, all into the design process and in co-creating the VICT program. The play plans that we created followed a gated process. We have a Vision Empower content management process, and we get it reviewed by experts and rework at every stage, and we have enough flexibility for continuous improvement. So this, the play sessions were specifically designed using the principles of the Ludic design for accessibility, which Dr. Manohar will talk about in detail after this. And in this approach, the child is free to explore and even create their own rules in the game and challenge their teammates, as you saw them during the game. They were challenging each other, they were making new rules, they were creating games within the session itself. And this is more what we call a constructivist approach, right? And this initially wasn't easy for us because, as I said, we are products of the old school, right? So it wasn't easy for us to begin with, but it was a mindset which I think Dr. Manohar drilled into us. And this is where analysis of our detailed observation reports that we collected every day when we went to school or played with the children helped in reworking and redefining the pedagogic process to the entire pilot. So the children, their teachers, the parents, and of course later after COVID, the parents, and all of these were essentially part of the what is called a participatory design approach adopted for Project VICT. And over the pilot, we largely focused on face-to-face interactions with about 38 students across 3 schools. in any area in the school which was not a classroom. Right? We conducted these sessions on tactile card games, which, as you know, were designed over the year. As we played the games, the card design evolved. So we have now, and this is specifically, it is under the Ludic design for accessibility framework, and Dr. Manohar will talk to you more about it. And of course, the Torino, which is currently marketed as the board jumper. So that provides a tactile programming environment created by Microsoft Cambridge. So the program went through rigorous research by this joint team, and overall we had, in the year 1 of the pilot, we had 61 sessions from which data was collected. And based on that, now let me share with you quickly some of the analytical discussions based on the empirical results that we collected over the pilot, right? So firstly, we found that it was possible to design accessible games. It was nothing impossible. Not only that, there were many of these games activities were available off the shelves. You notice the children enjoying the tactile board games, right? And many of the schools or caregivers, what we found is either they were oblivious, they didn't know, or they knew and they decided to keep it under lock and key outside the reach of the children. Clearly, that was a finding that this needed to change if you wanted them to. Secondly, we found that the learning has to be subtle. It has to be a subtle side effect and not an explicit learning game, neither an unhealthy competition. So the games needed to be the departure point and not the lesson in the chapter, right? So basically, it had to be motivational enough for the child to enjoy the process, right? So this leads us actually to the importance of creation of a sustainable plan, right? You can't have it's great to play one day, but how are you going to do it over and over again over the year, right? You need to have an implementation plan. You need to sustain. And what should be the duration? How much should be the duration so that you can have the attention of the child, right? And how frequent should it be to not lose their interest in it? All these things, we had to come up with by the end of 1 year so that we could continue with the second year. And here, one very important finding during this, investigation was that in order to scale, we had to include the existing teachers. This is as an answer to the question which Mr. Rambutam also had, is that we needed to include the existing teachers in the process and not create a parallel education. So this is one thing where we brings us to actually the most important finding, that there was a dual role that the teacher had to play. So during the game, the teachers were best accepted throughout our pilot. They were best accepted in the role at best as experienced players, certainly not as teachers. The children wanted to play with playmates, right? So that was a role which the teachers had to mold themselves into. They had to play with the children. But at the same time, the teachers themselves had to remain astute observers each moment and accept the failures as well. And back at the office, every day, every single day, the teachers needed to wear their teacher hats and ensure that the observations were shared with everybody, documented, brainstormed, and then we could arrive at the new play plans by learning from each other. So barely had we conducted. So this we did over the 1 year. Throughout the pilot, we did this. And after a year, when we had barely conducted one training session with the teachers on VICT, and Dr. Manohar also had conducted one workshop at the Microsoft Accessibility Room in Bangalore on digital literacy for teachers using the Ludic approach when COVID struck and the schools closed, right? Now, I will not go into what happened due to COVID. I'm sure all of you know. But one thing I'd like to mention is that the uncertainties that was brought about by COVID surely spurred us to think in terms of alternative approaches, right? And here is where the inherent flexibility of the Ludic approach and the constructivist paradigm that I mentioned helped us to redefine the pedagogic process. So you all know that education had gone online. But what did we find? We found that there was a huge gap in digital literacy among these teachers at the schools for the visually impaired. And we were engaged with them in different ways, but we didn't have to talk to them over phone or in the smart class. We didn't have to do all of that. So we realized that we needed to rethink about that. And now we recognize that many of these teachers didn't even have smartphones or connectivity. Forget the students, many of them don't have even now. So even before continuing with VICT, with support from Microsoft researchers, we came up with a digital literacy research program and then created digital literacy tutorials in Kannada. Vidya created them. We distributed these to the teachers and supported them over phone calls. So finally, we were able to start training sessions online with them somewhere in November 2020. And of course, once we trained them, now they're pros at it. They can get into breakout rooms and out of rooms, and they do wonderful things now. All visually impaired teachers I'm talking about. And this was a huge learning. And the tutorials are now being provided in other regional languages as well. And meanwhile, while this was going on, what we did parallelly was we created the online versions of the games, which we played face. So far, we have about 20 games which can be played online with the children, which you saw the examples of. And some of them are just played over plain phone calls. They don't have the smartphones. So they just borrow a feature phone from an uncle or an aunt, and we just play with them over phone calls. And the learning from this exercise, surely many of you who are teachers have been doing many such innovative things. And so, let me summarize quickly, what were the main learnings after these enhancements. So what we had to do, we can go to the next slide, Raji. We had to move easily to, available materials in rural settings, right? Because we couldn't send any material. So whatever was available at their home or their hut, whatever you want to call it, they needed to use. So we usually use, compensatory techniques, as I told you, for the children during class. There are these hand over hand or hand under hand techniques, basically touch-based techniques of teaching. But since this was not possible, so our play plans had to be revisited. And we had to enlist support from caregivers. It could be siblings or intermediaries like the parents or somebody else, or sometimes special educators or visiting villages. So with this, we had to also revisit the duration and frequency because of the changed requirements on infrastructure, the logistics change. And one other very important finding during this period was the lack of early childhood care and education for children with visual impairment before they reach school, right? So because they had not gone to school, if they're not trained on the basic skills like fine motor, cross motor, sensory, social skills, these were the very basic skills, and so it led to the launch of a new research project so that we could make them CT ready in the first place, right? So I'd like to end this by saying that we totally appreciated one more thing in the process is that, and very critical, is that making the CT curriculum accessible does not mean simplifying the CSpathshala syllabus, right? We had to retain the essence of the curriculum, respect the complexity where it belongs, the abstraction, all of it in our plans. And the play plans were created to include sighted and visually impaired persons to play together at the very outset. It was meant to be inclusive at its genesis, right? And the Ludic approach, in fact, demonstrates that many of these could be used for children with other disabilities as well. And as we get ready for broader dissemination, I don't think there's any better platform than this CTiS, and we're very, very fortunate to be here today. At the esteemed members of the CSpathshala to co-create content for higher grades and share whatever we have created so far with all teachers and children across the country and improve on it together, as a team. So in this context, we are confident that our accessible learning management Subodha will be a great technological catalyst moving forward. With this, I'll leave you with a glimpse of the numbers we have reached so far. As you can see, we have created about 45 CT play plans, which can be easily accessed by you. We have reached indirectly to a large number of students through teachers, more than 3,700. Directly with teachers, we have about 375 teachers now across the country. We began with one state, Karnataka, 3 schools, then 10 schools. And then this year, actually, the third year, we were to do 30 schools and as many teachers. However, because of the online mode and easily being able to reach out to others who also are looking for support, we have so far actually already touched about 83 schools. So with this, I now thank all of you, and I'd like to hand over to Dr. Manohar for his session. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Supriya. I think you've reduced the number of things I have to speak about very, very clearly and nicely. Thank you so much. So I'm going to spend maybe about 30 minutes looking at what this ludic design for accessibility is, specifically in the context of computational thinking. Raji, please go ahead. Just a brief background, you can just skip through the next 2 slides. Currently, the design for accessibility for people with disabilities is basically creating solutions that improve lives of people. Go forward, please. Next 2 slides, you can go. Essentially, most of the approach is to say that how can I improve the livelihood, the education, the employment, skills. So it's a very utilitarian focus approach for accessibility. But most of the time, what happens is people forget that people with disabilities are people. They love leisure, entertainment, and play, just like anybody else. And so the primary motivation, next slide, for ludic design is that we play because we are human, and we are human because we play. So there was a poll earlier, right, about what you cannot live without. Suppose I were to add play, your favorite play, into it. I can pretty much confidently say that most of you will pick that. Especially in the COVID time, one of the things I'm sure all of us missed was just getting outdoors or indoors or with other people, playing and enjoying whatever that game may be. So play is so critical to our existence. As human beings, we are unique in the ability to play, and we take out play, unfortunately, in our schools especially. We say, oh, don't waste your time, don't play. What is it? You're not going to get marks, you play. I think that's what we want to change. We want to say play all the time, but you'll also learn. Let's see how we can in the next few slides. So our ludic design for accessibility primarily is based on the premise that play and playfulness are central to what makes us human. And so we need to keep that focus. So we cannot separate playfulness from the design experience. And if we do so, we fail the intended users of whatever we are designing. So that's the basic idea behind the research of ludic design. Next slide. So I'm pretty sure I've enjoyed, I remember playing with the tire, trying to keep it up and running along with it on all kinds of roads and streets, and play never stops. On the right, you have some older women playing your game, everybody's favorite game. That's when we are fully alive. And so play central. Next one. So ludic design, if we want to put a simple equation, it is pure play. Pure play has lots of parameters to it. It is voluntary. Nobody can say, hey, you go play for 15 minutes, otherwise I'm going to punish you. That's not play. You play because every player wants to play. There are simple rules, whatever may be complex rules. but all the players agree on the rules of the game.
Sorry to interrupt, Manohar. I think there is we're not able to hear you.
Oh, I see. Okay, so maybe
Your voice is breaking.
battery. Is it better now? Hello? Can you hear me?
I think it's better. Yeah.
Speaker as well.
You
Can
can
you hear me better now?
start now. It was just scratchy. We could hear you, but it was very scratchy. So
Scratchy.
you can go ahead. You can go ahead now. It's much better now, Dr. Manal. You can go ahead.
Okay, I've gotten rid of my headphones, so I think it should be okay. Okay, so what I was saying is Ludic design as a simple equation is pure play. Pure play itself has many characteristics. One is, as I mentioned, it is voluntary. People play because they want to play. People, children, adults, whoever it is, you cannot force them to do an activity and call it play. And play has no obvious benefits. You cannot make money. And anytime you play something to make money, that's no longer play. That's a business. That is employment. And the rules of the game are all agreed to by the players of the game. They can change it, but every player in the game has to agree to that game. Only then it's important and interesting. So example is all the street cricket, right? You must just say that stone is the wicket, and everybody agrees. You cannot say where are the 3 sticks, no. The team, everybody who's playing agrees that stone is the wicket, and if the ball hits it, you're out. And if you hit the neighbor's compound, you're out. Don't ask me why. That's the rule. So play is that flexible. The players have to agree, and with that agreement in a limited time and space, you enjoy it. So this is pure play. There's lots of literature on what play is. I will not go into all of that, but keeping this, all of us know what pure enjoyable play is. Let's keep that as the major component. What we do as a Ludic designer is to throw in a designed side effect. So I want to get the players gain some benefit by playing a lot and enjoying the play. But the skill or that outcome happens as a side effect, not as the primary thing. You are not playing because you want to get that. You are playing because you want to play. And you play for an extended period, those skills become yours. That's the basic, what should I say, description of Ludic design for accessibility. And I'm sure you would have seen from the examples in the earlier session about how the children are having a great time. They're playing some games, but all of you also agreed that they're picking up skills in numeracy, systematic counting, associating numbers with quantity, etc., etc. So this is essentially what Ludic design is. Let's go ahead. And again, there's a huge literature on how play is so critical for cognition and education. I will not go into the details, but it's not as if we suddenly said play is important for education. People have been saying it for years and years. Unfortunately, our standard school system has become so hardbound and against play that we find that we need to go back to the basics of why play is central to education and learning. Next slide. So we come to the specific application of Ludic design for accessibility in the VICT project. And this is also the first effort in actually putting this quote theory into practice. And the last hour, you got a glimpse of where we have been able to go with this methodology because of the fantastic effort of the team at Vision Empower. Let's go to the next slide. Similarly, there's lots of evidence on how well-designed board and card games can lead to measurable improvements in numeracy. Many literature exists on how this is important and useful, and most of the work is unfortunately limited to sighted children in high-resource areas, not in areas like schools in rural areas in India, and also not for children with any kind of impairments. So our project, the VICT project, is essentially to design, prototype, and contextually evaluate appropriate games that can be applied to visually impaired children in India to improve their numeracy. Next slide. And so as teachers, educators, academics, this will be the biggest question. Is it all play and no work? It's all fun. You can get children to play and they will play forever. but how do we ensure that we are actually covering the curriculum, and how do we know that they are actually learning stuff? I mean, we cannot abdicate our responsibility as teachers just because play is important and is wonderful and joyful. So I'll spend some time on our thoughts on how we intend to cover the curriculum first, and then how to assess the learning. Next slide. So what we have done is look at numeracy, the early grades 1 to 3, the computational thinking curriculum relating to numeracy. We have created a matrix. So the rows are for grades and the columns are key learning indicators in numeracy. And these indicators we have picked up from the existing literature on foundations of numeracy. There are many people across, tens of years or decades of research on what is numeracy, what are the number skills, and classifying them into learning areas. I've listed many of them here: number recognition, measurement, positioning and locating, and so on and so forth. And we also have a broad set of understanding on, at each grade level, what kind of learning areas do we cover, and for each of these areas, what level of complexity that we go in each grade. So number recognition will be there in grade 1, and grade 2, you may increase the complexity. Simple arithmetic, you may not even start till later in grade 1, but in grade 2, it will be more involved arithmetic. So all of you as teachers understand this. So the basic matrix that you're building up is to take the existing specification on what curriculum is appropriate for what grade in fine detail. So next slide. So if you just pick one area, number pattern, there are many subcategories. And what I've highlighted is the number patterns you will do a little bit in grade 1, a little bit more complex in grade 2 and grade 3, and so on, right? So every colored dot here has a learning area and sub areas which are appropriate for a certain grade level. So this matrix is the end goal of our curriculum. You say computational thinking, you can then break it into several subcategories of learning indicators. And then we could also, as educators, assign these learning indicators in some order of complexity and assign them to various grades. So this matrix is the outcome that we are looking for. Children have to, at a certain grade level, be able to master the skills that are indicated that are appropriate for that grade level. So this is the outcome that we're looking for. So the question is, how are you going to reach this outcome? Next slide. So let's take an example card game, Rummy. Okay, this I hope most of you are familiar with. This is a 13-card game, which is widely popular in India, especially. And unfortunately, it has a bad connotation of gambling, which I think we need to erase and look at the complexity of skills that can be learned by playing this game. So what I've shown here on the bottom is a matrix of key learning indicators that can be picked up if you play the game Rummy. And at what grade levels are these skills indicated? So the green markers say the game of Rummy covers these learning indicators across these 3 grades. How do we do this? If you play the game, if you know the game, you can say, for example, it has to know, you have to know ordering of numbers. You need to know how to sort numbers. You need to find missing, or you need to know patterns. So you can, and you need to, eventually when you finish a game, you have to add to get your points. So if you analyze this game, you will clearly be able to find out. Of course, it's not by one person, 1 or 2 people look at it and you analyze, okay, which skill do you, it also involves at some point strategy. You can also talk about probability. So you have 3 6s, you want to make the 4th 6, and you need to say, should I wait or not? And you also need to be memorizing, being aware of whether somebody has discarded a 6. So there are so many skills that are there that we need to analyze it and capture what are the learning indicators that are covered if I know how to play this game very well. Okay, next slide. Just to say that I'm not just preaching to the choir. This is a picture, maybe 50 years old. I am second from left, probably about between 4 and 5 years of age, playing with my brothers and cousins, right? You can see the intense concentration that is there. Nobody told us we would go play for 1 hour. We would just play at every opportunity in our get together. And I don't know what the game that is being played is, but we have been playing card games forever. And Rummy is also an important game there. But we thrive in finding new games. We play, and I realized that subtly there's so much of skills that get built up by playing this game. So I just wanted to say that I'm not preaching something and doing something else. I'm actually trying to convert people into playing a lot more. Next slide, please. So what we did is, for each of the games that we have now, we have just indicated what are the learning indicators that these games cover. And this, as you can see, is a growing list. And I'm hoping that many of you will help us grow this list further. Pick your favorite game and we can see what kind of KLIs that game covers. And if you take the union of all these games, you see the bottom larger matrix. These games that are indicated here cover all the green dots from grade 1 to 3. There are some gaps, as you can see, which means we need to create more games that will fill those gaps. But for those which have a green dot, it's possible that more than one game is covering that skill, which is obviously how it is. If you recall the market game example that in the earlier session, and when you are asked what learning indicators were covered in a different way, right? You said patterns, this, money. So 4 or 5 things get covered in every game. That is the nature of games. It is not unlike our traditional learning process where you do addition and it's just addition without any context. A game involves many things together. That's what makes it fun and engaging. But the point is, if I have this set of games, I know that if the child can play all of these games, these skills that are indicated in green are covered. Okay. So this quest is to find more and more games to cover the gaps, 1, 2, to provide options for children. I may like a card game, but somebody else may not like card games, but you cannot say if you don't play cards, you are out of the school. I need a multiplicity of games just for variety. We love variety. All of us love variety. And we have different capabilities to absorb material in different ways. So different games are appropriate for different children. So our quest is to create a rich set of games. At the same time, ensuring our original question, how is the curriculum covered? We need to do the systematic work of understanding each game, analyzing what skills are part of this game, and collate a growing set of games that we offer on a platform like Subodha for teachers everywhere to borrow, add, play, and enrich their children. Let's go to the next one. So this is a basic question. How do we create new games and play for computational thinking? So I say start by looking at games that you love to play first. The key part, as Supriya mentioned in closing, is that teachers have to love playing. And if you don't play any games, I warn you that you better go start playing. You're missing out. So you start playing, pick a game that you enjoy most. And obviously, it has to have some connotation and context to computational thinking. But you'll be surprised. Many games you will find have context in computational thinking, because computational thinking, as we all know, covers a whole set of things. And algorithms, if you just pick algorithms, so many activities in everyday life, including play and games, can be used systematically. So you need to pick a game that you love, find something that has CT related content. As I mentioned, most things will have some things. Identify the KLIs. That's where you need to, it becomes, it's no more hand waving. You need to be specific about the curriculum context, the specific learning, which is codified by all the experts in this area, and say which of these can be enhanced by playing this game. Obviously, you play with few children and adults. And if it's new to some children or adults, you explain the game as you play. And first of all, see if you enjoy it, see if the children are enjoying it. And if you can tweak the game, that's the nature of play. The players can tweak the game to make it more enjoyable, play and repeat. And if it is enjoyable, and you have already done the homework of saying, if this game is played, these skills will be acquired as a side effect, then you're all set. You create a play plan, share it to others, let lots of more people play, they will improve it, they will tell you what works, what does not work, and you iterate. That's how we create a new play plan, goes into the open resource through Subodha, everybody plays. And we are hoping, one of the reasons we got very excited about this is with so many excited, passionate teachers, if they apply this methodology to the diverse contexts they all live and play in, we will have the very enriched set of games in computational thinking, and be available to everyone. Next slide. So this is again a major question, right? How do we assess? So the standard way of assessing is unfortunately the bane of Indian education, right? The testing. Testing kills learning, in my view. As soon as you say, I'm going to test whether it is adult or children, you freeze and your natural capabilities are completely swamped by the anxiety about, oh, I'm going to be looking like a stupid, I'm an idiot, and my rank is going to be worse. And so all of these are unfortunately part of our education system. And we are not out there to change the system at one shot. But our hope is play makes assessment also fun and joy. How is that? So if I take the same rummy example, right? So you know this game improves certain KLIs. That's all well known. So I want to assess a bunch of children whether they have these skill sets. What's more simple than to play a game of rummy with these children? Obviously, they must have played it before, because you cannot suddenly say, "Go, let's play rummy and I will evaluate you." If they played rummy, you play a game, 1 round, 2 rounds, and children play and they beat you hollow or you beat them hollow, does not matter who wins. But when you know that they're playing the game as per the rules for rummy and they're enjoying it, it's clear that they have already picked up all of the skills. You don't need an arithmetic test. You don't need sorting test in this range that rummy calls for. All of them are implicitly exhibited by the fact of playing. And examination then becomes playing, and it does not need an examiner. Anybody who knows rummy can be called in to play with the children, and at the end of it, you say, okay, which child knows the rules, which child, how many, what happened, and that's all you need to assess this child for those KLIs. But again, obviously, I'm simplifying this very, very complex part of assessment, which requires so many areas across this curriculum and so on. But the core of the idea is that we need to make play itself part of the assessment process. So this is something which, as you play, and I'm sure as you think about these games and play, when you go back, you'll realize that, especially when you create your own game and a play plan, you will come up with the idea as to what skills and how do I assess. So in our play plan, we have a separate aspect when we look at assessment. It need not be a one-shot assessment, which is again a problem with our current testing, right? You do about 3 months, then they have a test, or 1 month there's a test. Because of games providing multiple skills at the same time at different levels, children pick up these skills as they play, and different children will pick up different skills from different games at different rates. They are all heterogeneous, our children. Every one of us is unique. And these games, with the multiplicity of games that are available, this assessment happens around the year. As you play more and more games, all you need to know is each child, what games can the child play, has played, and you just look at all the games that the child is competent in, and you can do the assessment independently of bringing the child over to demonstrate the gameplay. So like your attendance record, all you need to do is what are the games you played, and you just have to say who won, who scored how many points in this game. And if you have a record of all of this for all the games that have been played, you can offline look at it and compare the metrics of the learning indicators and do a checklist of which child needs to improve, which KLI, which is missing, and so on and so forth. So this is another ongoing research that we are evaluating, because we've only been here 2 years plus in a reasonable way, and we have covered a very small part of the CT syllabus, and we are starting to implement it in schools as part of their curriculum and schedule. And of course, 1.5 years, we have not been able to put it into practice in actual schools on a daily basis. Once we do this, we will get and learn a lot more about assessment, and we will be sharing all of this with all of you. Next slide, please. Yeah, so that's essentially the skill. Yeah, next, you can go back. Yeah, so I just want to just summarize some of the key aspects of LDA. Joyful play is the most important. If either the child or you, that's also important. It's not just the children who should enjoy it. If the teacher is not enjoying it, there's something wrong. Because like what Vidya mentioned earlier, the teachers have to become co-players. And for a play to be enjoyable, everyone should enjoy. And so if enjoyment is not there, you have the flexibility to say, hey, how can we change the rules of the game to make it more enjoyable in our context for this team? And we have to become children again and play. And I'm pretty sure all of you play in different contexts, and you are alive when you're playing. And all we are suggesting is bring that joy into your job, which is teaching. And of course, I've been a teacher for a long, long time, and that's one of the most rewarding professions. And I'm also sure that most teachers, the worst time or the worst aspect of teaching is grading. At some point, you have to mark some number and send it across as a record on the child's mark sheet. And that's really, that the child is better, but based on the instrument of a test that you have been asked to evaluate, the child only gets this. But this child is so good, but she's not doing as well as shown in her. So we as teachers really take a lot of, we put ourselves in when we actually grade these children. And that's the toughest part of being a teacher. But I am hoping that when we bring in more and more of play and take away this drudgery and torture of evaluation and grading in the traditional sense, all of us will be benefited by that change. Of course, be open to rules proposed by the children. Play along, you will find new ideas. I mean, this is really how most of our games also evolve, because when we try a new game, we play with the children, and then we find out, oh, this doesn't work, and some child will say, let's do this. We try, and then it works, and we adapt it as our rule for this play. And especially on the online context, this is very, very important. We need to innovate on the fly, to make things work in a remote way, where 5 children are in different locations, in different phones, different orientations, and different skill levels in using the phones. But all our sessions have been so enjoyable. Like some of the examples you saw, this is not cherry-picked examples. Every session is so enjoyable that we could have given you 2 hour video clipping of all of those things that have been going on, right? So lastly, remember, pure play, everyone plays because they want to play and not because they're forced to play. So this is very important. I think this is probably my last slide. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, but of course, all of these are very optimistic, joyful views, but there are many, many challenges, like I mentioned, very different from classroom teaching, and play sessions are not the same as class hours. So it cannot be compartmentalized, and you cannot have, so the difficult challenge is, how do we integrate this in a regular school structure? Obviously, I think, again, in this context of CT, we have an advantage, because I think most schools are still doing CT, if I'm correct, outside the main curriculum, because main curriculum is not caught up as a basic requirement in every grade yet across all states. So you are already doing this, enjoying this, and children, I'm sure, are enjoying it because it's not part of their main curriculum. So the challenge is how to integrate it with the school curriculum and the schedule. And one of the things I want to emphasize again is that teachers and parents have to become children again, curious, unafraid, unafraid of making mistakes and exploring all the time. We are not know-it-alls. We are also children at heart, and we need to explore, take risks. More important, we get kind of focused on, oh, we are playing for 45 minutes. We better make sure these children pick up the skills. We are so committed to transferring knowledge that we become, quote, teachers say, oh, you should do this. You should cover this because otherwise what's going to happen? You may not. So take out all the stress and stay away. It takes a lot of effort to stay away from giving instructions. Oh, you are doing wrong. No, 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 don't do it. No, you just step back and let the child and the other players evolve. They will learn. And the best way to think about it is, suppose there is a new board game that somebody is introduced, bought from the market, and say, oh, this is a fantastic game, come and play. How do you play? You go in, the person who has played it before says, I'll explain some basic rules, but let's start playing and I'll tell you as we go along. Otherwise it becomes a long instruction set. So they will give you some basic thing, roll this die, do this, I'll tell you what's going on. You join, you roll the die, and they will do this, and they'll simplify it. The first game will be not for real, you'll play for, I'll teach you, but we'll just play for, fake game. So you go through the moves, and twice, thrice, you say, oh, I'm going to play now, let's play the real. You play, you lose badly, but next time you play, you get better. 4 games later, you are beating the other person. This is really the sense of how we should, quote, teach a game. Teachers are experienced players who are introducing other players to the game slowly. And as you introduce, you can let back, and other children who have learned the game will teach the other children. So peer learning, which is like a big buzzword in education, happens automatically when you play games. So please remember, play is central. And of course, we really, really need all of your contributions in extending the collection of games and play to cover this huge set of things that are part of what we call as computational thinking. So that's basically what I have, I think. Next slide. Is it my last slide? Yes. Okay. So thank you. And we will have a separate Q&A session after this. What is the thing, Supriya?
Yes, Dr. Manohar. So we can have a Q&A if we have time, but I think we are almost done. So I don't know, but there are some questions and answers, but maybe before that, we can just listen to Vidya.
Sure, please go ahead.
And then we can open up for Q&A.
Yeah.
Yeah, Raji.
Hello, teachers. I'm Vidya, the founder of Vision Empower, and I'm glad to be talking at this conference today. And the work we do at Vision Empower to make STEM education accessible means a lot to me, because as a child, I always dreamt of such accessible resources, especially when I had to study subjects such as math and science. And guess what? I'm visually impaired, but I really loved math, technology, and science-related subjects. And unfortunately, all of these were completely visual. Despite several people telling me to drop these subjects, I continued these subjects till my postgraduate level, just because I loved these subjects. For sure, there was nothing wrong with my brain, and I could do everything that my sighted friends did, like trigonometry, calculus, and whatnot. I'm sure all of you know that once conceptual knowledge is developed, you really don't need eyesight to study or pursue careers related to computational thinking. And who wouldn't want to be a part of rewarding STEM careers, especially when technology is the future? And also, why should so many visually impaired people be left out from all these opportunities? You'd be surprised to know that among millions and millions of visually impaired people in India, only less than 50 students are studying STEM-related courses beyond high school. And this is largely because of the inaccessible education system. And that's where we need all of your support. to start thinking in these lines to make your classrooms inclusive and accessible, and henceforth consider the needs of visually impaired students while designing anything new. Because at the beginning, it's very easy to make anything accessible. But what about everything that has been made inaccessible so far? That's also where we need help from all the incredible teachers over here. And we have announced a challenge for this very reason. We are celebrating our 4th Foundation Day on 4th October 2021. And I'll describe a little bit about the challenge. You're able to see 3 areas where we need help on the slide. This is also available on our website, www.visionempowertrust.org, and will also be available on the chat. What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to make play plans for one or all of these concepts. The play plans have been already demonstrated earlier. You can take the learnings from this conference and make accessible play plans. And since this is a challenge, there will also be prizes. You can send your entries on or before 3rd October because our Foundation Day is on 4th October. And since this is a challenge, there's surely prizes for your entries. The best of the best will be rewarded. And if you have any queries, you can also write to the email ID that is given on the slide. Let us all be a part of making computational thinking accessible to every child and support each and every child in achieving their dream and realizing their full potential.
I think that brings an end with Vidya's. So this is the challenge. So basically, this is a call for all the teachers who are attending here. You are already creating activities and you already have many activities, and some of these are the ones mentioned here. These are puzzles and these are games which are already used in CSpathshala curriculum. It would be wonderful for us to have play plans for these, and I'm sure those of you who have created play plans can look into those and see how you can make those accessible. If you really need any support, you can reach out to us on the email ID provided on the screen, visionempowertrust@gmail.com. Very simple. And yeah, if you can send it to us, then on the 4th, there would be some awards and we can take this forward in any case. So very glad to be here to announce this challenge. Thank you so much. And I think Dr. Manohar, there are some questions on the Q&A. Maybe Dr.
Sure.
Thanks a lot, Supriya and Dr. Manohar Swaminathan for the excellent lecture. And Vidya's little speech was really inspiring and motivation for all of us. So there are a few questions. First is from Shweta, who is interested in or who has designed some games on Scratch, and she would want feedback from all of you regarding the games that she has created. And she says that she also creates games with some story at the background. So she is asking whether these can also be thought of as skills under this pedagogy.
I will request Supriya to talk about the storytelling that has evolved as a powerful tool. Supriya, can you go ahead?
Yeah, you want me to do that first? Or
yes, please. Yeah, first that, and we'll come back to Scratch afterwards.
Okay. So yes, very interesting, because stories do mean a lot to children when they grow up, and this is something we discovered during our pilot as well. So one of the things that we did was we actually conducted storytelling sessions. So as you know, those of you who know Jodo can also know that they have, they begin with a story on everything. Similarly, there are many other organizations which focus on stories as a means to learn. But what we found is that not all stories and the way the stories are either written or told may not always be very suitable for the child with visual impairment, because many things are out of context. So we ran an experiment over the pandemic itself. So where we created, a team to work with children with visual impairment, and over a period of almost 3 months, we began with telling them reading stories, and then later we figured. So this was a fully, very systematic research we did, at the end of which we actually found that you need to take up stories, but then when you use stories as a backdrop to learning, we need to keep in mind the mechanism with which the story has to be used. And therefore, we have incorporated, and we are thinking of incorporating it in a larger way into our CT games as well. So yes, that is one of the areas.
Yeah, thanks, Supriya. So as far as Scratch, obviously, it's a visual programming language. It's very powerful, very good early learning tool for programming concepts and so on. So what I would suggest is use this tool to get ideas about key learning areas. Then you could go to explore what kind of tangible artifacts can be used to replace the constructs that you use in Scratch. At the one end is, of course, what was mentioned earlier, this code jumper, which is the tangible programming environment, was kind of inspired by Scratch-like programming languages, but converted into pods. So there are statement pods, there are loop pods, you connect them by wires. So whatever you see on a Scratch-like simple thing is actually made by connecting pods, and then they are electronics and audio outputs and so on. So that's a tangible programming environment. Currently, it's a little expensive. We're trying to figure out how to make it available in India. But to your specific question, Scratch can be a trigger for creating interesting games that can convey specific concepts in computational thinking.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Manohar and Supriya for the answer. There are a couple of questions from an anonymous attendee. I will take the second one before the first one. So the second question is there a difference between play and a game?
Yeah, I think this is a very interesting, it's a profound concept, actually. It's not easy to explain, but my understanding, each one's understanding is slightly different. Play, so the one which I showed the picture of, just running a tire with a stick, right? That's play. You just do it because you just enjoy it, right? I mean, the ground may be hard, you may be barefoot, it may fall 17 times and you have to pick it up, but you just do it because just for the joy of it. So play, I would say, is less structured game. The more and more rules you put in, it becomes game. But game is also play. But play need not have so many rules. That's my distinction between these two. But it's not the final answer. It's my view of what a play is, what game is.
Yeah, thanks for the answer. Now let me take the first one, and this is about assessment. So the attendee is asking that should the assessment be based on strategy or just to be able to play the game? And
this is again a very important question. So when we play a game, any of your favorite game, you keep playing it even though you may be losing every one of the games, because the fun of a game is in playing, not in winning and losing, so long as you don't put a huge pot of money for winning. Then it stops being a game. It is gambling or competing for a reward. Play by itself places no real value on winning and losing except to induce you to play more, right? But fail and pass, oh God, that's the word I don't want to listen to, right? The card that we used to get, postcard when we were in school, so end of summer, you wait for this postcard, which will have a red stamp or a green stamp or something like that. Pass, fail. That's like tension. So pass, fail is bad. Winning, losing is good because that keeps you engaged in the play. And so when you talk about assessment, obviously, if you start saying, if you win the game, you pass. If you lose the game, you fail, gone case. I mean, there's no way play is going to be part of our education. So the idea is whether a child can play a game. And when I say assessment, you will play 5 rounds. You will say who won, who lost as part of the understanding of the game, and whether people are able to play or win or lose, whether they are able to play is what the assessment is based on. And
when the question about strategy, if your learning objective is about strategy, then you will then analyze the strategy. So when suppose you want to talk about probability, we haven't done that. I'm just talking on top of my head. You need to estimate the likelihood that you will get 3 clubs before holding on to 2 and 4 in rummy, right? And then you may say, I'll reshuffle, I'll do something else, and I will do this. That requires strategy is a harder concept. To evaluate it, you need a lot more, right? So you need to be watching the child play. And so I don't know how to do that, but strategy can be, and it's an open thing, that how do we assess strategy? What kind of games? By playing repeatedly, you can estimate the strategic thinking of a player. I don't have an answer, but that's a very important question that we should ask.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Manohar. There is another follow-up by I think the same attendee, that he or she is kind of designing a teacher learning manual for people who have sight impairment, and which is helpful to practice multiplications. And so maybe the attendee can connect offline for a feedback on that.
I think that's good.
So I think we are at the end of the session, and thanks a lot, Dr. Manohar and Supriya and the entire team of Rajeshwari Madam, Devi Madam, Sylvia Madam, and Anshuman Agarwal for the great 2.5 hours that we have spent. And it was great learning for all of us, and great to know that computational thinking, without the curriculum which has been designed by CSpathshala, without diluting any of it, how it could be adapted for teaching those skills to visually impaired. Thanks a lot. And I hand it back to the organizer.
So we come to the end of today's workshop session at CTiS 2021. So thank you to Dr. Manohar Swaminathan and Dr. Umesh Deshpande for joining us. So before we go online with Chai Pe Charcha, please make a note for tomorrow's agenda. We will be having a paper presentation contest at 3 p.m. onwards, which will be followed by a keynote. Don't miss out this keynote, from computational thinking to computational action, by Hal Alveson, MIT USA, at 8:30 p.m. So now, I hope that everyone has received the link for Chai Pe Charcha. We have posted it on YouTube channel and WhatsApp groups. And you will also receive this on the chat box. Please check out all the attendees. So let's get up. It's a time to get into some discussion more on another interesting event. So let's begin with Chai Pe Charcha with Sonia and Jen. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining today's session.